All right, this is not going to shock anyone, especially the cynics next to me here, but there is money in politics, and money basically decides politics in many ways. But then there is real money in politics, like this guy and his brother, Koch brother money. The conservative oil business billionaires, many times over, they're pledging, now I want you to think about this, to spend $900 million of their own money, well, mostly their own money, in the 2016 elections. And they're doing it and spending it all on conservative candidates and policies. Now, more than $250 million than the entire GOP party spent in the last presidential cycle. So think about that. They are more than outspending by a factor what the entire Republican Party did, really by two guys. Now, while it remains to be seen if all that Koch money can actually buy an election, and let's be clear, that's what they're looking to do, it sure can buy a whole lot of other stuff. Let's give you a frame of reference, and Andrew put these things together today, so if you don't like it, blame him. 360 million fares on the New York City subway system, a system Andrew would have kept open last night. Right. Enough money here to treat every city resident to 45 free rides. This 2016 Koch cash payday here could also go for 212 million cups of white chocolate mocha coffee at Starbucks. What size, Andrew?
Grande.
Grande, thank you.
Yeah.
Or it could cover the cost of nearly 3 million nights at Disney World's fancy deluxe villas where you can see Chris Christie. Now, you want to go even bigger than that? That cash could get you 1,065 Porsche 918 Spyder convertibles. They sell for $845,000 a pop. Or you could use the Koch money here to buy 2.5 new Boeing 747 jumbo jets, gas and parking not included. Okay.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. But before we're joking around here, remind everybody what they did, not just in 2012, but also what they did with Alec and the rest here. Just what these guys have tried to co-opt to pick a president, but also to basically decide legislation and decide a platform for a party.
They have spent a lot of money influencing presidential elections, Senate elections, gubernatorial elections, even on the state house elections. If you go all the way back to 2010, there were a number of state house, state legislatures, state assemblies, and governors' races that flipped from Democrats to Republicans, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and that set up the districting for that happened after the census. And so, when we talk about Democrats getting more votes for Congress than Republicans, but Republicans having a huge majority, that's because the districts are all set up to favor Republicans in those states. So it's influencing that. But
there was a method to the madness.
It also influences policies, judges and judicial races, so that, let's say you get coal polluters in West Virginia who then have their cases that come before very coal company friendly judges in West Virginia, and lo and behold, they find in favor of the companies.
And just to make it as baldly opportunistic, they literally, Andrew, would write the entire bill. They'd send it to the lawmaker and say, enter it just this way and put your name on it, and they would. In state house after state house after state house, and many times it became laws. And what's the only thing in common with it, Dominic? It helped out business.
And one clear example of that is Stand Your Ground law that existed in Florida and many other states, and it's because the Koch brothers actually drafted the legislation.
By the way, Dominic and that man are not brothers, but go ahead. Yes.
That's not my twin?
No, I'm sorry. You'd like that though, wouldn't you, Bill?
Yeah. Can I get one of those Porsches? or can we own one of those Starbucks that
you talk to one of those two guys.
Because if we own one of those Starbucks, then I need to stop my trend where I'm going right now and just make the opposite point.
Get your own produce.
If we own one of those. But no, seriously here. It's disgusting. And it's everything that's wrong with American politics, because we do these shows night after night after night when you want to know why nobody can take on the NRA and why our public officials are not looking out for our best interests. Well, now you know why. Because if you don't get in bed with these guys, right, let's say you're principled and you really don't want to deal with them. Well, all of that money goes to your opponent, and you're not going to be around too long. So it's disgusting. It's despicable. They will tell you it's their right, which it is based on the
Citizens
Supreme
United,
Court,
yep.
right?
It is.
But it may be their right, but they'll also tell you that this is to counter the influence of municipal unions that go overwhelmingly Democratic. That's what they will tell you.
Now, Andrew, they've changed their playbook a little bit from the last rodeo here, in that they say if we're going to spend this money, even more than we did before, we want to get a return on our investment. Now, talk about what they're doing as it relates to the Republican presidential field, the calendar, and how in many ways, I don't think I'm exaggerating, they kind of want to pick their president.
Yeah, 2015 right now is shake-up time, and there was like 23 or 24 Republicans who have expressed some level of interest in running for president. The Koch brothers want somebody who's in office or who's going to be the standard bearer for the party, who is going to be pro-Koch and pro-business in all of this. That's their big mantra, what's good for business. Well, that's bad news for the people that we tend to think of as more the wingnuts, the Rick Santorums or the Mike Huckabees, or even the Rand Pauls, the passionate Tea Party conservatives or the libertarians who don't have the biggest groundswell of money, but they're trying to fight up against the big guys. The Kochs could use this money to swoop in and basically say, we're going to go with Jeb Bush. And we're going to use all of this money to bash anybody who's running in the race against Jeb Bush.
And
how
talk about
do
the
you
calendar
fight that
and the
money?
significance this time around in terms of clearing the field, unlike last time where this food fight really hurt them in the primary process.
Well, because the calendar is being sped up by Republicans and by the Republican Party as you go into 2016, trying to prevent the sort of protracted Republican primary field that you had in 2012. That primary dragged on a long time, and it allowed the Democrats, well, in 2012 it was Obama, to really have the microphone and the podium all to themselves. So, they want to be able to pick their presidential nominee. And then if you also think about it from a Democratic standpoint, who can run for president on
Right.
the Democratic side and fight off $1 billion from the Koch brothers?
And I think the point, I think we'd all agree, first of all, it seems, barring some surprise that we haven't seen in covering politics, that Hillary Clinton not winning the nomination would be the all-time biggest political surprise for on the Democratic side. But if you ever wanted a punctuation point to it, this does, because like Andrew said, if without even going into his own money to other political donors and the rest, if it's Jeb Bush that gets the blessing and hundreds of millions of dollars from the Kochs that are going to spend it in whatever PAC they want, and whatever he raises, you got to have basically $1 billion to play ball in this game here, and she's the only one that can raise that kind of money.
Absolutely, the only one who can raise that kind
And
of
think
money.
about this, Richard. It really is despicable because let's say you have the backing of your Republican candidate, and you have the backing of the American people. Let's say, for argument's sake, if you don't have the money to compete against the Koch brothers candidate, none of us is going to hear your message. None of us. You're not going to be. As a matter of fact, with that type of money, they can buy almost all the television time for their candidate in advance, and the game is over
And they can
before it
also
even
co-op,
starts.
magically, they'll co-op the other conservative media too.
Right.
They'll do sponsorships through the publications or broadcasts or whatever else.
Technically, they're not supposed to link or organize with any particular candidate.
Right,
Keep
right.
in
I
mind,
have a bridge also for
keep
sale,
in
yeah.
mind, right now there
Right.
are no official candidates, so they can do all the linking all they want at this point. The other thing is it's not just the presidential race, and we tend to focus on presidential races and Senate races because they cover larger areas. They get more attention. Just. Let's say I wanted to run for Congress, or you wanted to run for Congress,
with
or
you.
Dominic wanted
We're
to run
with
for
you.
Congress. First of all, we're all going down together. But let's be honest, we're not. But how do you fight against somebody who not only has the ability to raise more money because they have a higher profile, but then to be able to get the blessing of the Koch brothers? Yeah, I'll sign on to your platform if you feed some of that money my way. I mean, it stamps out the little guy.
But it's even more than this. You have to sign literally a pledge, almost like a purity pledge. If you want their endorsement, you have to agree to the following things. Forget principles. If you even want to get through the primary process, that's how bad it's gotten. Okay, so as Andrew said, whether you're running for a dog catcher, you're running for a judge, you're running for Congress or a statewide position on the local levels, and legislation, they got their fingerprints on it. But now here comes the money question. Even if they spend that money, can these two literally buy a presidency, or at the end of the day, it's still the candidate. Maybe they can get him through a primary, but you can't win a general election unless the candidate's good enough. Doesn't matter how much money you have.
Well, what we know is the money from the Koch brothers could not buy a president this last time around.
Not this much. They spent a lot more money this time.
Right. But I mean, the former speaker, Newt Gingrich, he had the casino owner
Adelson
in his corner spending a lot of money. So with this particular president, they couldn't. And the reason being because Mr. Obama had the support, if you will, for the most part, of the masses. But this time the presidency, it's not an incumbent president that's going to be facing re-election. So who knows? We're going to find out.
Let me flip the perspective from 2012 because Obama was the juggernaut, as you described, and he spent the beginning part of that election basically defining Mitt Romney. Realized that Romney was going to be the nominee, and he established who Romney was going to be in the eyes. He was the 47% guy even before that stuff leaked out. He was the guy who had the $9 million home in Vail
Companies
or whatever.
People too.
Right, and the house that had the elevator for its garage and that sort of thing. And all of that was in the public zeitgeist. Is that the right word?
Yeah, nice.
Before Mitt Romney was ever actually the nominee. Now you have the Koch brothers, and let's say it's not Hillary Clinton. Let's say it's somebody else. Hillary decides not to run. They can use all of that money to then define that person. So it's not necessarily about getting Jeb elected or getting Mitt elected or getting Christie elected, though they're not going to back Christie, or somebody else. They can shape the arguments against whoever the Democratic nominee is. I would argue the only person they can't successfully do that with is Hillary Clinton. They can certainly dredge up a lot of stuff from the past and remind people of why they might not have liked her.
And I'm only saying to a Republican at home who is listening and saying, oh, you guys, you just don't like the Kochs because of their politics. I'm telling you, as a Republican, this is not healthy for your party because of the following. They're going to make litmus tests for anybody they want to run. You guys need to grow the party. You need to get more people than just look like Mitt Romney to be Republicans. To do that, you have to have certain policies that maybe won't go through the Tea Party folks here. Koch brothers, if they don't sign off on that, that doesn't even come on the table here for a platform. It's not healthy for anybody of any political party to basically have two guys, if they're willing to write a check with a B at the front of it, to dictate who you are and who you want to be and who can vote for you. It's not healthy. We joked around and people said, oh, you guys are exaggerating about Citizens United. This is Exhibit A, everybody, what they're doing. I also think it's not good politics long term. Short term, Andrew's 1,000% right. They've done it. They've worked it on the state level. They've worked on the local level. They've got the legislation they've wanted here. But now they want to buy a presidency. And I'm telling you, if not careful here, they're going to really regret, I'm talking the party now, not even the Kochs, that it was money not well spent or that they, kissed the ring here and might regret what came along with it.
Here's the part that bothers me. I mean, we saw Mike Bloomberg run for mayor and have a fairly successful run as mayor of New York. And he spent a lot of his own money on himself. These guys aren't even getting in the game. That's another part of this that bothers me a great deal. If they're so invested in trying to tip the scales, run for President Charles Koch, run for President David Koch. They will be exposed on the national level as being nothing more than the bank in all of this. And they don't want to get their hands dirty in all of it. They don't want their faces known by as many people, even though they're, pretty widely known.
Richard, I think it's real simple. I think the American people should say to themselves, why would somebody want to spend almost $1 billion, whatever it is, to get someone elected president? Is it because you really care about the country? I mean, now let's think about it. Or do you want to own your own president? Think about it. The math is real simple.
They own a number of oil refineries across the South and Central United States. I'm sure lots of pro-oil production.
You think?
Stuff. Yeah, I think maybe.
By the way, just speaking of Capra here, Mr. Potter, that's where you're going for
me or the Kochs?
No, the Kochs.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Listen,
thank you.
You're rocking Mr. Potter here. You gave him more money than you did before the week started. All right, coming up next, everybody, we're going to get a final check of the forecast from Jamie Booth here. She's going to tell us what the rest of the week's going to look like. Stay with us.